Okay, this video today is going to be on some panels I'm going to make to enclose the rest of the mill here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make some panels that go from here to here and then back to the back to enclose all this area over here and this area here like this. And then on the doors I'm going to make panels that slide with the doors and will enclose this half. And I'm going to show the process in which I cut and bend the plastic. And the main reason I'm doing this is because I still had some stuff flying out. If you see up here in the cobwebs, see there's pieces were still flying out the top. When I'd use a 3-inch face mill, there was still a lot of stuff flying out the top there, so I'm going to close it. And the other reason is the humidity in my basement here has really sort of gone pretty high when I cut all day, and the coolant gives me, I don't know, it makes me feel bad and I get a bad cough from it. So the other thing I'm going to do is on the other side here, I'm going to put a small, back here in the back, I'm going to put a small fan in here, and that's going to run up to the window, the basement window, and hopefully that'll get rid of any like fumes and humidity and the mist that's thrown off by the cutter. You also see all the pieces that flew up on top of the mill. So the original idea was to keep the chips inside, and most of the time it works, but with the big 3-inch face mill, it is just, that thing just throws everything everywhere. So that's my plan. Okay, this is the strip heater I use for bending the plastic sheeting for the enclosure. It's made out of old patio doors. This is part of the sliding door that goes back and forth, the top and the bottom there, that one back there, and it all folds up for storage. Like that, and then you can store it wherever you want. This part is 6 foot long. And inside here is the heating element from a clothes dryer. It has ceramic insulators on the bottom here. You can see this one here. And I just have it wired up to 110 volts. Dryer is set up to where the heating element runs off of one of the 220 leg, and then the other one runs the motor. So just by hooking up to 110, it maintains a perfect heat, and it's fairly simple. Didn't hardly cost anything to make. Also inside here I have this this is gasket material for a wood stove that insulates the coil from the aluminum, and there is also ceramic knobs about every foot in there. They were originally on the heating element from the dryer. And on the top here, originally I had some of these strips glued down here to concentrate the heat more out of this gap. But just from storage and wear and tear, they sort of deteriorated and fell apart. So I'm going to try it without them. I tried it before, and it sort of heated too wide of an area. But if you don't use it too long, it tends to work okay. And I put this is from another patio door. It just sits there like that. And then to heat your plastic up, you just sort of line your lines up here. and then that'll heat the area you want to bend. Okay, I want to show you how I made the plastic panels for my milling machine. All the panels pretty much had to be an exact size because I had 4 panels across the back and 2 on the front, and if they were off by 1/8 of an inch, by the time I was done I'd be 1/2 inch off on the sides. So I made this wooden buck up that I could bend the plastic over. It's basically like a sheet metal and buck. So all I did was I made this up and I subtracted, for the thickness of the plastic, what was an 1/8 inch. So I subtracted an 1/8 inch from each of the sides from my to make the pattern. And basically what I would do is, this was my piece of plastic I wanted to bend. The sheets had this 90-degree already built into them, so I would basically use that to start with. And I would lay my buck on top of the plastic, and I would bolt that down or clamp it, and then I would lay my pattern on the edge that I wanted to bend, and I'd wait for that to heat. Okay, after it gets soft, you'll notice it bends pretty easy. And what I would do is I would take it and then clamp all the way down along the sides. And I'd also have a piece of angle iron across the front here. And okay, this is the piece that's going to go on the back, and I marked out my lines. So I just have to cut this center piece out, and I'll use the table saw to cut these two, and I have to bandsaw this one. And these lines here are where my bends are. Okay, my original plan was to make this all one piece, and then basically the mill and the column would sit right here in this area. But it was too much of a hassle to fit this in without taking a bunch of wires and all kinds of other stuff apart. So I decided to make it in 3 pieces. So I cut this piece out, and then I'll make a wider one that fits. It'll probably go from here all the way across to that side like that, and I think that'll be a lot sturdier construction. So in a way it worked out alright. And the other thing I do is, whenever I bend these, I always leave them wider than what I need, because I only need this to be 1 inch, but the only problem is it's hard to bend a 1 inch edge. So the best thing to do is to bend it wider than you need, and then run it through the saw and cut it down to the thickness that's required. And that way it stays evenly all the way around. except for this side, I'm not going to be able to. I'll have to do this by hand. But and there's the. That way everything's the same thickness. That's pretty much how I made every single panel on the enclosure. Now this I'll have to do that one by hand, or I might just leave it long and just angle the sides. Okay, this is the piece here that's going to be for the baffles that go over the intake fan. I got an insert here from the Rehab It store. It's some sort of vent with interlocking baffles to capture any moisture and chips, and it's going to be angled, so that'll fit inside the inside this small enclosure here, and will be angled so all the fluid that's captured will run down, almost like a vent over a commercial cook stove, or the kind you see in restaurants. So that's pretty much what that's for. And I have it all marked out where my bends are going to be in order. So I have everything numbered 1, 2, and then I'll have 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and 8. Alright, this is another tool I made. I was walking through Kmart one day and I saw they had these electric charcoal grill starters on sale for like $2. So I got one of these and basically it had a loop. I just smashed it flat and I use that to heat like local areas. Like this right here, I gotta heat this edge so that I can just hold it right along there and then heat that edge up. Because I have to glue where these clamps are at, so I want to make sure that there's no stress in that joint. So I basically use this to heat places I can't get to with the strip heater. Or if I have a panel that has a slightly warped spot in it, I will just wave this over the top and it'll take the warpage out of the panel. Watch you don't touch the plastic though, because it will melt it. And you can see it gets red hot. To glue this plastic, it's PVC plastic, so I just use standard plumbing glue, the purple primer, and just regular old PVC cement. This is from Ace Hardware. And once you glue it together, it's pretty much permanent. And you need at least an inch of overlap on your joints for a good bond. Any less than that and it doesn't hold very well. And the finished panels installed, they turned out pretty good. The doors still open and close pretty easy, pretty much one finger. And you can see the blower motor in the back there is different from earlier in the video. That small fan ended up having a high-pitched whine to it that sort of drove me nuts. So I found this blower from a oil-fired furnace, and I had to fix the starter windings in the motor. But other than that, it works pretty good. It's nice and quiet, and I was able to use a larger pipe. I could use a 4-inch PVC pipe to go out to the vent, out the window. I can sort of try to zoom in there. See, it goes all the way out there, out to the window. And to turn the fan on, I installed a switch here in the main panel. Actually, I installed two switches, one for the coolant and one for the cabinet fan. But I don't know, I'm happy with that. That's not too loud. It gets a little louder when the doors are open. And the grates over the vent there actually make it even quieter. Without them, it's a pretty good loud roar. And the other thing I added was I put a garden hose into the coolant system. And so what I do is I close this valve here, and then I go to my panel, I turn that on, and that way I can hose all the chips down, clean things up really nice. I can even get back in here and clean down the sides of the enclosure, flush all the chips down, and then when I'm done, I put everything inside the enclosure in case something started leaking or dripping. It would just, you know, be self-contained. So that's pretty much about it. And here's a side shot of the doors.